Hi, Dr.
Hi,
Rochelle. Welcome to the Impact Revolution. Thank you so much for
thanks for
coming.
having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, how you doing today?
I am excellent. No complaints at all, which is a good thing to be.
Okay, great. That's beautiful. So let's start with the interview. So with that high energy, I just normally ask, if that's okay, Rochelle, to couple of questions, a bit personal, a bit more adventures, just for the audience to know you a bit better, and then
Mhm.
later we can go to the interviews, normal questions. Is that okay?
Sure, no problem.
Okay, cool. So, Rochelle, one of my favorite questions is if you could wake up tomorrow anywhere in the world, where it will be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's so many places.
Oh,
Um, oh my gosh. Oh wow, I wasn't ready for that one. I would say,
uh-huh.
oh my gosh, this is difficult. Maybe Thailand. I went to
Uh-huh.
Thailand and I had an amazing time on the island.
Uh-huh.
So maybe Phuket.
Together.
Because I really want to go back and explore Thailand some more. I was there for 5 weeks, and it's such
Mm-hmm.
a large country and so diverse from location to location.
Uh-huh.
And that I felt like I only scratched the surface in 5 weeks. So I would love to
Mm.
go back and explore some more.
All right, cool. Yeah, I love Phuket as well, and I love Thailand. That's one of my top places for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
place that you never get tired.
yeah,
Even if you
I
go
feel
three,
like
4, 5 times, doesn't matter.
exactly. I feel like I can do like 5 more trips there and it still wouldn't be enough.
All right, totally good. The second question will be, if I ask you, Rochelle, what was your happiest moment in your life? What is the first memory that comes to your mind?
Oh, another one of so many. Um,
Uh-huh.
hmm. Oh my goodness. The happiest moment in my life. Wow. There's a lot to choose from, but I would say,
Uh-huh.
hmm, I'd probably say when my friends came to Barbados. Like I had friends when I got married. I got friends from
Uh-huh.
all over the world that came to Barbados, and
Okay.
the day after I got no, the 2 days after I got married, we had kind of like a celebration cruise
Uh-huh.
where everyone was on board this catamaran sailing around Barbados, and we just had a
Uh-huh.
blast. We had such a good time, and it was just really good because it was just like all your friends came from all over the world to visit you, and it was
Uh-huh.
to be there, and we just had such fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, nice, nice. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes. So now that we got to know you a bit more,
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you, someone who really admires you and respects you much and knows you very well, Rochelle. How will define who is Rochelle Haynes, Doctor Rochelle Haynes?
Hmm. I describe myself mainly and professionally as a good work advocate. So I call my, you'll see on my LinkedIn, it says the good work advocate.
Uh
And
huh.
what that really conveys is my passion for wanting people to experience work in a good and positive and enjoyable way. So I think that really defines me. And why
Uh
that's the case is because I believe that work should fit around our life and not the other way around. We do so much, we spend so much time in our job. So it should be enjoyable. And personally, what I do is defined by who I am as a person. I'm a person that loves adventure. I love to travel around. I love flexibility. I just love to do my own thing. So I
huh.
built a work life that was surrounding that because I like to work with different people. I love to meet people and experience different cultures.
Uh huh.
Um, so very much what I do is so ingrained in who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you see my profile, if you see the stuff I do around remote work, the stuff I do around just the future of work and making sure you create good work experiences, is defined by who I am and how I want to experience the world.
That's really cool. Yeah, I really admire what you do, and I really like it because I also study a master in HR, and I'm
Mm.
very advocate as well of having a better workplace, and
Yeah.
living meaningful lives. And people can do that while they are at work. And I think the
Yeah.
value of purpose and values is very important, and the building of the culture, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, how do you do it exactly? How do you create these meaningful, let's say, cultural, right, or leadership roles with this
Yeah.
hybrid world? Or what has been so far the most effective way?
Yeah, what I would say is that there's no one effective way. So
Uh-huh.
one of the things I get to do and I get to learn as a consultant is to, and also as a researcher, I should say, because I'm half profession, I'm half academic, half professional, like, or
Okay.
fully both of the same thing. So I think what we what the main thing for me when I'm working with a client is first to understand the context that they're working in, but
Mm-hmm.
also to understand what they're trying to get out of work, not
Mm-hmm.
just from a commercial perspective. What is the company trying to achieve, but also what is the company's vision and how does that link to what employees are trying to achieve? If it is, you can understand that very clearly as a company, then you have an idea of really how to start. So, for example, often what we've seen in the past is that companies have pushed one way of working. We've pushed a 9 to 5 way of working because that's the traditional model that was set back in the industrial revolution and so forth. But as the world changes, as our work expectations changes, companies have to be
Mm-hmm.
open to also change their way of working. So I usually
Mm-hmm.
sit with companies, try to understand what is the current context that they operate in, what are the barriers that they face to doing things differently, and then I do something what I call an HR audit or an organizational audit, where I look at, okay, what are
Mm-hmm.
the things that are stopping you from working differently? Whether that is policies, procedures, lack of infrastructure, lack of resources, or the main thing I find a lot of the time is mindset. So I do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
mindset work with companies to help them build trust, because trust really helps when it comes to being willing to offer more ways of working. So it's really just understanding a company first and understanding what suits that company, understanding their barriers, their challenges, what they're trying to achieve, and then designing particular resources that would suit their particular context and problem.
All right, very good. Well, this is about redefining the business mindset. So you touched something that I also work on.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, how do you do that in specifically in this company? Because I think the resistance to change and the
Mhm.
psychological blocks or the mental blocks that can be there probably is the more challenging part, right?
Yeah, and it can be difficult. One of the things is, I would say, confront the company with where they're at. That's one of the things that helps. Show the
Mm-hmm.
company where they're at and what is the price of not changing. So we do a lot of workshops and interactive sessions where we look at what are the barriers the companies face and the challenges, the problems that they haven't been able to overcome, whether that is product related, whether that is service, whatever it is that they're offering or if they do. And if they're not achieving the targets that they're aiming to, or if they want to go further, we look at, okay, how is your current way of working keeping you at a point where you're stuck or growing very slowly? So then from there, what we can do is then show them how they can achieve more if they were to try different ways of working. Sometimes it's a lot of strategic sessions with leadership teams, just get them to understand why the change is needed in the first place, and
Mm-hmm.
then create a model where we can introduce that change incrementally. Sometimes how we do that as well is helping the team, helping businesses by bringing in experts that help with that change as well, rather than saying, okay, the world is changing, you need to change everything you do in the next 8 weeks. Sometimes we break it down and we just show you, okay, if it is that you are trying to slowly shift, let's start with this one thing first, let's see what happens if we make a shift here. And then we monitor that. We measure the change, we measure the output and the impact. And then when the company sees that, when the leaders see that, often they're willing to try it with something else. So a lot of piloting and case study work also really makes a difference.
All right,
Right.
very good. Thank you so much. It's very interesting. Yeah, and what do you think then has been? Yeah, so I guess it's the mindset. Well, however, yeah, what is the best way for hybrid work to work effectively in terms of other stuff? You know, that maybe not be the mindset. That is, you know, maybe more hard skills or more procedures or more, you know,
Mhm.
equality, diversity. Any
Yeah.
ideas?
Yeah. Well, one thing we tell companies, especially now, is be more open to, especially when we're talking about diversity and equity and inclusivity. Um, one of the things that companies have to be open to is reviewing the way in which they recruit people for work. And one of the things that we tend to, let's say, advocate for is to look at individual skills rather than looking purely at qualifications, and look at, even in your internal job market, look at how those skills can be deployed across different parts of the company. So if it is that you're saying you want to be more inclusive, um, are you one? Do you have in your hybrid structure? Are you still hiring the same way? Even your recruitment from the beginning has to change. Look at the types of workers you're hiring. Are you still looking for only full-time employees, or are you trying to hire persons that work fully remotely, which instantly gives more access to, for example, the disabled population? So it's
Mhm.
really looking at the way in which you hire, look at all of your different HR processes or people management processes, and think about what are the, or one, are they inclusive enough, as you said, but what are the things that we can do? How can we really fully, if we're talking about recruitment, examine what this person has to offer and make sure that they can contribute to the organization. The other thing as well is, if we go beyond recruitment and just HR, if we look more at the project management side of it, then your communication tools. What are your communication tools? What's your communication protocols? And are they understood by everyone in the organization? So then, of course, that leads on to training, because it's one thing
Mhm.
to introduce like 10 communication tools, but what are your processes or your protocols for using those tools? Which tool do you
Uh-huh.
use in case of emergency? What do you use if someone's off on holiday, whatever the case? And does the, let's say your blended project team, which might be made up of both full-time employees and independent employees or remote workers, do they understand who they turn to for information if one person's not available? Are you working in another time zone? So it's a lot of very practical stuff that will help.
Mm, totally. Yeah, yeah. It has to be the right, has to offer the right software and tools, right? In
Yeah,
order to make these interactions as much simpler as possible.
yeah, and also
Okay.
supporting the employees with the transition, making sure that the training and the upskilling is there. And the
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The onboarding part, right?
yeah,
Has to be as smooth as possible. Very good, thank you. Yeah, and that brings me to another topic related to the hybrid world that I think is a lot of companies and leaders and teams are suffering, which is the part of connection. So
mm,
I don't know if you have any lessons learned, you know, to improve this connection, to humanize, you know, this kind of organization in order to make, yeah, your jobs and and interaction more social, right, and more real.
yeah. I would say one of these things, especially if you're working in a blended team with full-time employees at working with independent or freelance, independent persons or freelancers. Often, what tends to happen is that the full-time employees are the ones that feel most included. They're the ones that get the credit for the work that they do, whereas
Mhm.
the employees that are remote, they're often overlooked. Sometimes they're viewed as more casual, and they're not given credit for their work. So
Mm.
one of the things that you have to be is really intentional in building that connection. One, ensuring that you have provided workspaces and events that allows these teams to really connect. So that onboarding, that those onboarding protocols and sessions are really important. Looking at what,
Mhm.
how you organize your onboarding, how much time you're spending on your onboarding. and also tie it with in-person events. Give those freelancers an opportunity to actually meet with the team face to face. So it has to be a mixture of both virtual and online. I know for virtual, a lot of persons use virtual water coolers where you just have sessions or meetings where you can have a very casual time, and depending on the platform that you use, it might allow for other tools of engagement. Um, but it has to be a mixture. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if I understood well. So you talk about some virtual like social gatherings, something like that.
Yeah, a lot
Uh-huh.
of companies use virtual platforms to build this sense of connection. I remember
Hmm.
during the pandemic, I very
Hmm.
much I attended a lot of parties online
Okay.
with business professionals that were actually better than some in-person parties that I've been to. So a
Uh,
lot of companies are using technology as a way of creating connection. But I would say that in-person connection is also important. So I often say to
Definitely.
persons, yeah, there's no war between remote work or working in-house full time. There's no war between the two. What we advocate for is providing options for employees. And if it is that you're providing options, then before you've done that, you would have done the due diligence and the hard work to make sure that those options are viable both for the employee and the company. And if it is that you provide a flexible remote option, make sure that employees are not disadvantaged by it or feel invisible. So by creating, let's say, your roster of events and your very structured, tailored onboarding to suit that kind of blended workforce team, then you're ensuring that everyone gets a chance to connect. Everyone feels included in the project. Everyone is recognized for the work that they do. So it has to be a real intentional effort.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, and I like the part of recognition, because it's something that a lot of people really value, and most of the employees, and it's something very important, and probably one of the things that is mostly overlooked, in the leadership
Yeah,
and management side.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah.
very good, Rochelle. I'm loving the interview. I just was wondering, I normally ask this question at the end, but
Mhm.
you could leave a last message to the world, to the whole world, what it will be and why.
Hmm. Two words. I would say be kind.
All right, love it.
um,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we've seen some of the things that people are going through and have been through in the last few years that people have gotten more vulnerable with sharing. And often we're in a work environment, and sometimes even my past experience of working in offices, or even, yeah, not just offices, but we have these experiences sometimes where um, there you can find ourselves one in toxic work environments, or you can find yourself in a place where some people aren't being very nice, and then when you get the backstory of what that person's been going through, not only the person that's not being nice, but the person that's suffering from it as well, you hear these harrowing stories of people just really struggling to survive and just really in a bad place. So I think
Uh-huh.
we need to be kinder to each other, and
Uh-huh.
I know it might sound very much like a cliche, but I do think it
Yeah.
would make such a difference if we're more considerate and kind.
Yeah, you remind me to this picture that I sometimes saw in LinkedIn, that there is a small dot and then a big
Mhm.
circle. And
Yeah,
the small dot is what we see, and the big circle is everything that we don't see that people have in their minds and in their backs.
yeah,
Yeah, it's important to be kind because
yeah.
nobody knows what is really happening to any person, right?
Yeah, and that's the biggest part of creating a big work, a good work experience. If it is that you are trying to do this for your employee, or you're trying to have a better relationship with your manager, then consider them as a whole person, not just my worker or my manager, but consider them as a human that has
Yeah,
feelings, going through things, and just
very
that
good.
having that different approach can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, we are first human beings and then later human doings, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, very good. I wanted to ask you something. Just slipped out of my mind. Yes. So, what makes you to do what you're doing now? What is your why, Rochelle?
That's very interesting. if I were to give you the backdrop of my career journey, my career journey is very unconventional. Um, I started out as a primary school teacher who
What? Sorry, can you repeat that? You started
sure.
with?
I started my first job was a primary school teacher. I wanted to
Uh,
work as a child psychologist, and I couldn't get an internship because they didn't offer them in Barbados at the time. So I thought, okay, I want to work with kids, so I'm going to go teach, so I get the experience. But then doing that for 30 hours, I'm sorry, 30 kids in a room, 5 hours a day. That's just a headache.
you need a lot of patience, right?
Yeah, massive headache and patience. But then through having work experiences elsewhere, like in banks and so forth, I kept offering opportunities to. I kept being offered opportunities to lead HR teams. So I thought, this is
Mhm.
interesting. But I think it fit with my personality because I love people. I love connecting with people. I love interacting
Uh-huh.
with people and helping people. So I thought, yeah, I've done a psychology degree. Let's try out HR. Let's see. This looks like fun based on my work experience. So yeah, I went and studied a master's in HR. I did really well on that master's, so I got offered a PhD. And through the PhD, I started researching how like HR practices in different countries and also expatriates. What do expatriates do in different countries? And this was really interesting to me because I was a Barbadian working in England. So I was always very interested in the culture. So then as I moved into academia, um, I started exploring how the world of work was changing. And one of the things that led me to do that was actually my students. Because when I first started teaching, my undergraduate students would come to me and say, "Oh, can you help us, Rochelle? Can you help us get this internship at this large company, GE or Siemens or something?" I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." But then as the years passed, like 4 or 5 years, they were saying, "Rochelle, can you help me can you give me guidance on resources to build my own app? I want to start my own company. I want to be a digital nomad. I want to do this." So the goals were changing. So I thought, it would be really interesting to explore how the world of work is changing. Did
Uh-huh.
that. Did like a global study in 2018 that we wrapped up in 2020, February 2020, and we launched the findings. And one of the biggest findings was that the world of work was not ready for the silent revolution that was occurring, which was more people want to work remotely, more people want to be digital nomads, and
Uh-huh.
businesses are not prepared to work remotely, and they need to become prepared. Now imagine we launched that in February 2020. March 2020, the world shut down.
It was like you hit the jackpot, right?
My crystal ball. I was looking in a crystal ball.
Yeah, it's like you were like a witch, you knew it was happening.
I like
Unbelievable, unbelievable.
yeah.
All
So
right.
it was from there things really took off. I was still in academia. I started consulting more, and we're doing a lot of consulting with helping businesses to work better with people who are working remotely, but not just focusing on remote work, but helping businesses transform the future of work and understanding what that means. What does it mean
Yeah.
to be a skills-based organization? What does it mean to what does distributed leadership look like? What does it mean to empower your employees to be
Mhm.
self-managed and to be leaders? So yeah, through doing a lot of that work, we were featured. Well, I registered my consulting company and decided I'll go at it full time. We were featured in Forbes for our research. So yeah, a lot of awesome opportunities has come from that, and that started with we spoke about Thailand at the beginning. That started with a research trip to Thailand, to Bali, to just across the Middle East, not the Middle East, sorry, just across Asia to understand how
Uh-huh.
people were working differently and what were the pain points that they were facing. So yeah,
That's
that
really
was
cool, man. Oh, that's really nice. That's a really nice story, Rochelle. And very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. It's about connecting the dots, right? Like connecting the
absolutely
dots, and everything seems to be connected.
yeah.
In that sense, what made you think, or what do you think that made you go through all these things, or what made you go, or what was your secret, to get all these things done? What do you think?
Can you say it again? I'm not sure I understand.
Yes, sorry, it was not a very good executed question. So I meant, because it seems like a lot of coincidences or points of luck that people will may say, and I was wondering if you think like that, or is something that you may think that it was actually because I flow with the moment, or I was curious, or I have a positive mindset. Yeah, I don't know. I was curious about what are your beliefs about that.
Yeah, I think curiosity for sure. So, for example, when I was an academic, and I'm still an academic. I lecture at universities, this sort of thing. Um, but in England, during my time in England as an academic, I always wanted to still know what was going on in industry. So I was very curious about it, and my philosophy became just say yes. I want to be in academia, but I also want to consult. So I'm going to say yes to every opportunity. I'm going to put my hand up for everything. And I went to, luckily, the university I was at the time, which was the University of Lincoln, they
Hmm.
were building a program where they wanted lecturers to consult and support businesses. And I stuck my hand up for that. I stuck my hand up for foreign trips. I stuck my hand up for everything. So I would say if it is that you are exploring being an entrepreneur, then you have to be one, curious, two, willing to take a risk and put yourself out there, even though you may
Uh-huh.
not know everything on the spot,
Hmm.
but just being willing to say yes and learn along the way. I did a lot of that, saying yes and learning along the way. And it was
Hmm.
funny because then I got to a point where I was advising people, no, learn to say no. It comes later in your journey as well as I gain more knowledge and you understand how to differentiate between which opportunities are fruitful and which opportunities are actually a distraction. So I would say curiosity, being open to risk, learning along the way, getting a mentor. I have very good
Uh-huh.
mentors. I'm surrounded by excellent mentors. I do not know everything. I will never know everything. And I feel like entrepreneurship has been the ultimate teacher. I feel like I've done a whole new degree by starting a business.
It's a PhD of life, right?
Yeah, yeah, there's so
I
much
would
I'm
say.
learning and relearning. So I think you have to have a learning and open mindset.
Uh-huh.
If it is that you want to be an entrepreneur and know how to deal with people as well, know how to talk to people and take, if you're not comfortable with that, take time to learn how to do that, to connect
Uh-huh.
with people as well. Yeah,
Totally. Very
yeah,
good. This is very important, I think, especially in startups and entrepreneurship. It's about connecting, right? And engagement, and show
yeah,
that you really care. Is
yeah.
there any last tips that you may want to share with us regarding that?
What I would say as well is don't give up and stay the course and understand which activities you are doing as an entrepreneur is fueling your journey and which ones are actually stifling your journey. So look at your routines, look at your daily behavior, look at where you're spending your money, where you're spending your time. And if it is that you have this goal to be a trailblazer or you have this goal to be, I don't know, a Fortune 500 company, look at the small things that you are doing daily and ask yourself whether or not that is contributing to your long term goals. Is that
Mhm.
putting you on the path or is that furthering your journey to where you're trying to get to? Or is it actually putting you further behind?
Very good. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting to make this assessment and awareness of where are we spending our time, and
Yeah.
focus on these high impactful tasks or jobs, right, or work.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely. And I'll
Yeah.
say one more thing. Stop comparing yourself to others. Stop comparing yourself.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, comparison is killing people, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a thief of joy, and as a friend of mine puts it, mind your business, stay in your lane. Like don't compare yourself to everyone you see online because it'll breed jealousy in you. You'll say, oh, why am I
Yeah.
not there yet? But you might be starting from a different place to that person. You might have had less help. They might have had more help. You never know, or you just don't know how much their work they're doing in the background as well. So if you're not doing the same thing that they've done to get there, don't look online and envy their journey.
Mhm.
Focus.
Yeah, I
Focus.
think Warren Buffett also say that the economy was run by envy, and especially now
Yeah.
with social media and all that, that people post
Yeah.
only the good side and
The good
hide the other
stuff.
side, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Very good. I love the interview, Rochelle. Thank you so much. I could talk with you for a long time more. I just, wanted to give you the opportunity. You want to share any final words to the business, to define the business mindset for a start as an entrepreneur? Feel free,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, I would just reiterate, stay the course and don't give up. Learn from your failures rather than seeing them as some sort of sign of your self worth or whatnot. They don't. Like, the only way I can be where I am now is through all the failures that I've been through, and learning from them, re examining, and going again. So keep at it, and it will get better.
Really good. Thank you so much, Rochelle. It was a big pleasure, seriously. Thank you so much. Keep
Oh,
you
thank
in
you.
touch. See you
Awesome.
now. Ciao.
Will do.